Hello everyone! So, do you want to start an aquarium during this rough time with the economy? Well, let me tell you, it's possible. So let's just get right into it. The first one I want to mention is a deep substrate tank. Now, this is planted, and I don't click away yet. I know there's this misconception that planted tanks are really expensive to run, but it's not true. Once you get a good system going, it's actually super inexpensive to run. The most money I put into this is just getting new fish and stuff. So yeah, so planted aquarium. I'm not going to go into details on how to set this up in this video, but I'm going to leave links down below to a channel, the Fatherfish channel. He has many resources on getting a dirted system running, and I highly recommend you check him out because it's 180 to my fish keeping, and it's made things so much easier and so much more pleasant. But yeah, it's fun just to create this little ecosystem in your house, so I highly recommend checking these out. So it might not sound like a budget tip at first, but in the long run, it really does help. Alright, so that last section was just about planted systems and how they can help you save money in the long run. Now let's move on to things that are going to be a little bit more immediately budget friendly. Alright, so the first one I want to hit on is filtration. I highly recommend sponge filters. Now I do have a canister on this, but it's not really necessary. This sponge filter does a phenomenal job and adds aeration in the tank too, so I highly recommend sponge filters. They will save you a lot of money, and you can get really good deals on eBay and Amazon with these. If you do decide on hang on the back filters though, don't buy the filter cartridges they sell at the stores. That's a massive scam in my opinion. You could just use polyfill. I'm a seamstress, so I almost always have that on hand. So I can vouch for it because I've used it quite a few times. And you can usually find that in like the areas with batting in the store. You can get that in Walmart near the sewing areas. Alright, next, lights. So shop lights work really great, but my absolute favorites are these Hygger lights. I have them on 3 of my tanks, and I'm planning on expanding that. So they're a sort of middle ground. They're not super expensive, and they're not cheap, but they're not expensive either, so it's a really good choice for planted tanks. If you don't have a planted tank, definitely look into the shop lights, but shop lights are great on planted tanks as well, so you can get those in a lot of places. They're inexpensive, but Hyggers are my favorite for the planted tanks that I've used. Alright, substrate is next. This one is easy if you want to use sand. So if you go to Tractor Supply, they have something called blasting sand, and it's black, so if you want like a black substrate, it's phenomenal. I love that one. I do have some in here, but it's buried under this other sand now. And you can also use pool filter sand. That's a really good choice too. I also want to mention that there's this like misconception about the blasting sand hurting Corridoras. It doesn't hurt them. I've had many a Corridora on that, and it's never bothered them in the slightest. I found what really affects their like barbels and everything. Sorry, the camera died. What I was saying is that oftentimes you'll see people saying that blasting sand is really bad for Corridoras. I've never seen anything like that in any of my tanks. It seems like most of the time when Corridoras have problems with their barbels and everything, that it's often caused by poor water quality. So if you're having an issue with that, I'd check your water quality. Alright, so the next item is water conditioner. I like to use Prime because it goes a long way. Yeah, I have a bunch of tanks, but it still lasts a while. It's 2 drops per gallon, which makes these bottles last for a while because it doesn't take a ton. I usually use these little things to measure it out to make sure I'm not doing too much and all that good stuff. So another thing that a lot of people do is they just let their water sit for 24 hours and everything will gas off, but my only issue with that is the heavy metals. I like to make sure the heavy metals are removed, which this also helps with. And as far as buckets go, I just use these Tractor Supply buckets and like cheap cleaning buckets from Walmart and stuff. So yeah, you can get them pretty cheap. So check Tractor Supply and Lowe's are good places to go. And if you do go with a planted system, if you need plant tools, do not buy those individual ones they sell at pet stores because they are so expensive. I don't know if I've ever seen a kit at any of the big chains, but I've seen like individual ones. I got one of the fluval ones. I think it was like $10 per tool, some were even more. I can't remember anymore, but I just remember it was ridiculous for a single one. So I highly recommend going on eBay and typing in kits and stuff, because you can find some good kits on there for a lot cheaper than you'd pay to get all them individually at one of these chains. So yeah, definitely check on eBay, Amazon, X Fish Keepers. These are great places to obtain equipment for cheaper prices. You can even get tanks pretty cheap if you look around, and they have dollar per gallon sales at some of the chains frequently, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Yeah, and sometimes people are just trying to get rid of their tanks and you can just take them off their hands. If you do go with getting it from somebody else, if they've had it sitting around for a while, just make sure you test that it can still hold water. So yeah, because you don't want that. You don't want to have an issue in your house. So this is a good place to start if you want to have a fish tank on a budget. If you have any questions, just leave them down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So that basically covers equipment such as lights, filtration, substrate, and all that good stuff. So there's a lot of other things that go into fish keeping, but you don't need to like go nuts immediately. You can get into it slowly. It's not something that you have to have what everybody else has. Just take your time and learn as you're going, and just get your basics down and you'll be good to go. And you can do it on a budget. Like I said, check Amazon and eBay. They have phenomenal prices on things that work really well. This sponge filter, I believe I got this one on... I got that one on eBay, and then I got another one on Amazon that looks just like it. They work beautifully. I've had them for a long time now, and they're doing fine. So you can also get little sponge filters. So I really recommend sponge filters. So yeah, I guess I'm gonna wrap this up here, and good luck with your fish keeping. And I really, really hope if you get into this hobby, you love it. And don't give up on it if you have problems at first, because everybody has problems no matter what level they're on. So just stick with it and you'll learn a lot. And again, check out the Father Fish channel, and if you are interested in setting up a planted tank, which I highly recommend. Yeah, so I think that's it. Just check the links below for other things, and yeah. So take care everyone, and happy fish keeping.